Setu, I think most of you have been working from the morning, ladies and gentlemen, and at the end of the day, I'll just talk about what we have been doing with this project. Uh, the problem in health is that you need to communicate with a lot of people, and a lot of instructions and a lot of protocols have to be shared and it needs to be shared with almost 1 lakh workers and officials. Various instructions that have to be passed have to be passed from the headquarters down to the ASHA, and which means 1 lakh people. Secondly, the problem is that these have to be done very quickly. You cannot have the luxury to do it with the old systems that we have. And secondly, the issue is to get feedback. What has been sent needs to come back, and because we need to look at what 24 lakh, say about 5 lakh patients every day, 24 lakh pregnant women every year, almost 24 lakh children who need to be immunized, and 24 lakh women who need to be provided ANC services, and almost another 20 lakh people who need to be looked after the national disease through the national disease control programs, 3 lakh tuberculosis patients, about 10,000 leprosy patients, about endemic malaria is unlimited number of malaria patients. So the system that we had in the past, formats, Patrak, the Patrak driven system of feedback is a great problem, because number one, it is difficult, it is almost impossible to manage a manual Patrak with so many pertaining to so many people. And secondly, the problem is that it can be very easily faked. It can be very easily faked. You can, if you're supposed to do ANC for 24 lakh women, you can easily fake it by not doing it and completing a Patrak sitting at your home. So the problem with this Patrak system of monitoring was that it can be easily faked, and problems which need to be highlighted tend to be hidden, because people at the village have this tendency of sort of doing 90% and in 96% result, when actually the results are not more than 20, 25, 30%. So the issue was to how to get this systems and practices to be to the last person who implements it, and how to get a feedback of what is being done. We have 15,000 health facilities, 54,000 gram canes, and so it's a huge work to the manpower component, the equipment component, how to ensure that everything is functional, how to know which is not functioning, what is not functioning, how to find out who's working, who's not working. So a whole complex of issues and the system, and that things have to improve. Madhya Pradesh is a high infant mortality and a high maternal mortality state, amongst the highest in the country. We have these figures which are extremely embarrassing. So how to take a leap and jump out of this low equilibrium of achievement, and to get into something which shows and is measurable, how to identify the gaps where there are areas where we are doing extremely well, but there are areas in which we are lagging, there are inter-district disparities, so a whole set of problems. And how do we do it? The only way to do it, to give some sense of some system and some sense of system in this whole system, is to integrate the whole system into an IT and LED and E-enabled systems, which can be measured, which can be quantified, and which can be monitored. So this whole Sampark Setu thing came out. How do we get to the ASHAs? The present system of sending letters and then getting to about 60,000 ASHAs who are spread into 52,000 villages was almost an absurd sort of task, and it never happened. So all sorts of pamphlets, leaflets, posters, and letters that were ever drafted, maybe 10-20% would ever get it. So we got into this BSNL CUG-led SIMs, and everybody now has a mobile. So we got them into this SIM system, and the first Sampark Setu intervention was this SIM. Now I'll show you what it is. Yeah, every day. This I don't know. So we sent 80,000 messages every day, 3 times a day to ASHA. आज का कार्य. Every ASHA gets an आज का कार्य. जैसे आज का है आशा एनएम ध्यान दें, गांव में आज 4 जून को किशोरियों के साथ बैठक कर मेंस्ट्रुअल हेल्थ के बारे में जानकारी देना है, सैनिटरी नैपकिन्स की उपयोगिता सोशल नेटवर्क मार्केटिंग के माध्यम से सुनिश्चित करें. So this was sent on some day. Then धात्री माता को समझाएं शिशु को 6 माह केवल स्तनपान कराना है, माँ को दूध के अलावा कुछ न दें। प्रत्येक गर्भवती महिला को IFA की एक गोली रोज़ भोजन के बाद नींबू पानी के साथ खाने की सलाह दें। सो दीज आर मैसेजेस विच आर सेंड 3-4 times every day and reaches every आशा। उसमें भी what she needs to do that day. Suppose it's a immunization day, then please get your. So this is a method of telling, instructing, and asking her to do something. So this now needs to be integrated with the GPS, so that location tracking. So we are working on integrating it on a GPS platform, so that location ka tracking, we can track the locations of everybody and then make it more useful from the present. Namaskar. Yeah. तो ये जो CUG की व्यवस्था थी, जो CUG की जो प्रक्रिया थी, उससे हम लोगों को ये फ़ायदा हुआ कि हम लोग एक स्ट्रोक में दिन में 4 बार उन आशाओं से को संदेश देना शुरू कर दिए, और जिनसे हम शायद 3 महीने में एक बार भी नहीं कर पाते थे. So now we can contact every Asha 3 to 4 times a day and then get feedback from them. Every Asha reports back on the same CUG to her district office about the situation of the village. So you see in the last 6-8 months, 1 year, ये जो outbreaks पर काफ़ी हद तक कंट्रोल कर लिया गया है. ये जो मलेरिया और डायरिया और डिसेंट्री और ये सब की बातें होती थी, वो जब हो जाती थी तब हमें खबर लगता था. Now every day we are getting a feedback of what the situation is, and it is very rarely with the IDSP system which has been integrated. It is rarely that we are caught unawares of what is happening in a village. So a simple intervention we started with COG, now added with a district control room and the IDSP network. We are in touch with every village every day. पहले होता था कि ये 20 लोग मलेरिया हो गया और 4 मर गए और दल पहुंचा, लेकिन अभी फैला हुआ है और अखबारों में रोज़ हम लोग पढ़ते थे युद्ध चल रहा है, इनकी गलती है, उनकी गलती है, इनके विरुद्ध निलंबन किया जाए, इनके विरुद्ध कार्रवाई की जाए. So that has now been replaced by a more systematic and less chaotic system of feedback, which has helped us to control literally every village, which has given us access to every village. So which is one great small thing, but ultimately the results are very fine. Secondly, we have this email. We have 100 things to do. Health in the Department of Health. Now these are the problems that are associated with this. In what you call in a department which has to do 100 things every day and without flaws, there has to be a plan of what are the priorities for the day and what are the priorities for the week and what are the priorities for the month and the quarter. So in the department we have set up this system of to do. There are 100 things, but what is the priority today? So that we send out to each officer. Almost 2,000 mails are sent every day to using this little mobile. You can use the laptop also, but I sort of use this mobile to type to about 2,000 senior colleagues as to what is the priority for the day and then what is the priority for the week, and just to remind them as a aid to their memory and the 100 things that you need to do. Please keep an eye on these things. So this gives all the 50 districts are moving in, have a semblance of direction and are uniformly doing the same things. So to have an impact, if all 50 districts do the same things on say the same days or the same weeks, things tend to get noticed and an impact that can happen. So if you're doing one thing in a block, nobody will even notice. But all 314 blocks, all 50 districts doing the same thing on the same day or the same week, it tends to get noticed. Now, this patraks that we had, the third problem, so this has enabled us to get in. Now I get about 500 responses on my mail every day, to the extent that I have to do some physiotherapy with my fingers. Typing is responding to all these 500 mails every day. So I have to take some physiotherapy. That's a problem that you have to be careful. The too much use of gives you some problems also. But then we are in the health department, so they take good care of me. So the third part was to remove these manual patraks. You had 100 column, 78 column, dreadful and sort of very devastating looking patraks which nobody read ever. While they were prepared religiously by the A&M, who would mark it to the block medical officer will mark it to the CMO will mark it to me, and at times my office will mark it to the government of India or the state government, whoever is. But nobody ever read it. How can you read a 100-page format which has 1 lakh information? So what we have thrown out all the patraks. All the patraks of the health department have been thrown out. All the weekly, daily, monthly, quarterly meetings have been thrown out. And we have got into this 12 softwares through which we monitor everything from a drug to the equipment to the performance of each officer, to the distribution of drugs, to procurement of drugs, to payment that have been made for drugs, to number of mothers and children, immunization. So everything that we need to monitor is through a system of 12 softwares. And then every week we sit down at my office at the state headquarters and we monitor all the 12 softwares. It takes about 2 hours, 3 hours to do that. And we are now, my chief medical officers do the same in their districts, and the block medical officers do the same in the district. And then we Skype with them with one division every day. So no meetings. We have held only one meeting, annual meeting of the health department last year on the first week of April. And in the last 12 months, we had no meetings at all. No meetings at all. We did away with every meeting at every level. So the weekly ANM meeting, the weekly BMO meeting, the monthly CMO meeting, all has gone away. And now we have while we would have saved quite a couple of crores in these, which hundreds and thousands of hours that were wasted in coming and going. So we monitor we send information through emails, we monitor through a very strongly systematically designed software. Then we have a website, health website, which has every information that you need. All instructions and all rules, manuals that you need to look at is on the health website. And then we meet on Skype every day with one division. For about between 1 and 2, I have fixed a date where I talk to all the CMOs talk to me. We discuss problems, whatever is to be done and how is to be done. With the result that what was a monthly meeting and everybody was busy in meetings, we just have done away with the system of meetings and patraks and have while we cannot call it still a paperless monitoring system, but it's more or less a paperless monitoring system. So that has helped us and while performance has improved over the last year with this type of monitoring, it has helped us reach every village. In fact, all the 52,000 gram ROKs that we have is monitored through the ASHA website. What the ANM is doing, what the ASHA is doing, what the gram ROK is, I wish somebody could show it to you, but believe me, what I'm saying is absolutely no exaggeration. Is less than what we are exactly doing. So we can monitor 52,000 gram ROKs on the ASHA website, which tells me what the ANM has done, what the MPW has done, what the gram ROKs has done, and what needs to be done. What's the checklist? So what has still not to be done is done the next week or is transferred to the next week. So this system has given us access to 52,000 villages. In real time. Every week we know what the checklist for the week was this, and this has been achieved, and this has, more importantly, this has not been achieved. So while I keep on talking of what has been achieved, don't forget, don't think that I have not noticed it. What we need to look at what has not been achieved, so that the next week we can prioritize it and do it. And then finally, what I'd like to share with you is very interesting, is we have a team health on this mobile, which is a Facebook closed user group. It has about, we started on the 30th of January with me and a couple of chief medical officers whom we co-opted. So it was 15, 20 people. And now it is around 10,000. It's about 3-4 hours. And if all these 10,000, and when I met Osama last time, we were at around 5,000. So in the time, that period, and now it has moved up by 5 more thousand. So if every 10,000 has a secondary friend group of 100, this goes to 10 lakh people. Any message that is put on this Team Health Facebook page goes to 10 lakh people. Can you believe it? So all these messages about health we put on this Team Health. I wish I can. Let me see if I can show you. नहीं करता हूँ. इस पे भी दिख जाएगा नहीं मोबाइल की है तो मोबाइल पे देखा जाए. ओ नेटवर्क नहीं है यहाँ पे. यहाँ पे नेटवर्क नहीं आ रहा है. हाँ, let me see. हाँ आ गया देखिए. This is the Team Health internet. This is the Team Health. It has 10,000 members, and every day there's a to-do list that is circulated through this, and there are 6,000 pictures of villages and facilities. मैंने ये किया, ये नहीं कर पाया. Tell me what to do. ये patient ऐसा मिला, ये surgery की गई. So a whole lot of information is shared and freely exchanged, and I do a little monitoring when it becomes too personal at times. We sort of do a little editing and all. So this has given, this team health has given us a reach of 10 lakh. We reach 10 lakh people any minute. Now suppose this message about this Gauravi thing that we had, it has gone to 10 lakh people. And the many people have entered a lot of information about it. So whatever we need, so the problem of health was of dissemination of information, dissemination of technical information, dissemination of protocols, dissemination of instructions. This has been taken care. And the bigger problem was of a feedback, what is being done. So now we get a measure of what is happening. And if we focus on the problems that we need to take, suppose a mother needs to be given, registered in the MCTS in the first trimester, an ANC needs to be done, and then IFA, say, 100 tablets of IFA needs to be given to her. Now the ASHA software tells me that, and MCTS, if you can triangulate these two, I know that there are 15 women in a village. 8 of them have been registered in the MCTS. Another 7 remain still remains to be registered in the MCTS, and 100 tablets of IFA have been given to each. The next week I'll know how many tablets has the mother consumed. If she's not consumed, the ASHA reports that consumption. So a very micro level of unimaginable proportions of monitoring is possible if we use these devices. So the question is now not whether we should use or not use, is how quickly and how well we can integrate the system. We are slightly averse because we are not the computer generation. Our kids and maybe the third generation is born with there is a game for them. But the senior people amongst us, they're not too friendly and they're not the computer generation people. So they need to, I certainly advise them to devote some time in learning this. They just cannot afford to function and deliver if they are not into the E-enabled and mobile-enabled technologies. They make your life and systems and processes so simple, but our aversion to it needs to go away. The senior, the 50+ people or the 40+ people who really are not the computer and the mobile generation, they need to spend some time. It's very simple. That I found a group who didn't present their thing. There was a group who didn't present it. Osama presented it for them. So this is the type of aversion. Current मार देगा, छूने से थोड़ी सी है, पता नहीं क्या होने वाला है. तो भाई तुम आगे कर दो, पता नहीं हमसे कोई गलती ना हो जाए, पता नहीं वो क्या हो जाए. So this thing needs to go away. The group must, while you are here for the second day also, you must get used to using it. It will not. I'll tell you, it will not hurt you. You need to learn, and while you are learning, a few mistakes can be made. So don't feel shy of making an error. लोग क्या कहेंगे? लोग कुछ नहीं कहेंगे. आप सीखिए. You learn it, and after you have learned it, your office becomes, your functioning becomes so much better. The quality of output that you give becomes so much better, and the concrete results that you give by identifying a problem. एक जो 96% वाली achievement होती है ना, without पत्रक वाली, 96% achieved. You need to get away from that. You'll really find that it's 22-30% achievement, and when this 22% goes to 90%, actually the system benefits. So saying that we have achieved 90% is very simple, when actually all of us know it isn't that. But identifying that only, like Madhya Pradesh, the IFA consumption is only 10%. But while it was the manual system of monitoring, we had never been less than 96% over the last 30 years. So the moment you switch to that, you know where the problem is. And a system which cannot analyze what the problem is, what will be a solution. So the Patraks told me the IFA consumption was 96%. What do I do? Pat my back, well done, shabash, bahut badhiya kaam kiya. But when we started monitoring it the way it should be, it dawned on us that the IFA consumption in the state was only 10%. Then we said, oh, what are you doing? Then we got into finding where the problem lies, and then we got into solving it, and then now we have got to 46, 56, 76, and then we'll ultimately go to 96, that's for certain. So जब आपने पता लगा लिया कि 10% है, तो फिर now the work will begins there. बट आपके पत्रकों ने 96% कह दिया तो आप आराम से घर बैठे हुए हैं कि हमने तो 96% सो द ब्यूटी ऑफ दिस सॉफ्टवेयर इज इन आइडेंटिफाइंग अ प्रॉब्लम and then rectifying it through monitoring and through constant supply of the logistics or whatever that you need to do. So when we identified that the IFA consumption was not 96% but 10%, we got into looking at our supply chains, we got into looking at our storage systems, and the biggest problem was, do you know what was the biggest problem? IFA, after consumption of this tablet, there's nausea. And women used to develop nausea during pregnancy. In any case, you have some nausea, but this tablet added to it. So 90% of the women would throw it in the drain because this was adding to their problem. Now we are getting to them to look, hemoglobin deficiency is a life threat. During pregnancy, if you're 5 or 6 in hemoglobin, during delivery, it might take your life. तो आप ये IFA ज़रूर खाइए, खाने के बाद खाइए, खाली पेट में मत खाइए, have it with some salts so that it dissolves better in the system. Now this strategy was identified only after we identified that the IFA consumption was 10%. Otherwise, we were very happy with our 96% report. And women continue to die because of low hemoglobin. So we need to get into the nitty-gritty of things. So just an example. So technology at this moment is something which we just cannot avoid, cannot ignore. So let's get used to it. Let's learn it. There's no point in getting used to it. You have to learn it. And it is so simple that it takes about 2 hours, 3 hours. If you do it for about 2 hours, 3 hours every day, when I started typing, say about 10 years ago, I was, ऐसा करके करता था, बहुत समय लगता था. But now I can type as well as any typist can type. So you have to learn. And having learned it, the things become so simple. So idea is this is a wonderful occasion to, these are places where we come, share our experiences. So many things I heard about the Vatsalya software. Certainly I'll go and look at it and try and integrate integration. Now these 12, the challenge that we have is how to integrate the 12 softwares that we have and make it more simple. Look at 12 software, then if they can all be put on the same platform and integrated, you can triangulate and find out things, find out loopholes. So through Sampark Setu in the health department, we have tried to remove those old, outdated modes of monitoring and review of systems. We are trying to improve, and the objective is to identify the problem, not to blame or not to sort of say you have not done it, but to help the system improve. If you want to improve IMR and if you want to improve MMR, it is not by telling that we are there already. You have to find out where there is a problem. A state which has an IMR, MMR of say 227, it has come down from 310 to 227 in 2 years. That is only because we have been looking at where the problem is. But we need to take it to 100. We cannot sit at 227. It's one of the worst in the country. Till we can get to below 100, there's no respite and there's no rest for us. So I think this spurs us on to further action by identifying what is a problem and what needs to be done by very strong micro levels of monitoring which this system enables us, and very strong communication which it helps to create and generate a lot of. I speak to about 1,000 people almost every day through this, and they get back to me. They're getting freer and freer, so a lot of problems are coming. In Vidisha, you remember, it took us 8 hours to open them up. We are talking what are the problems that you face in MCT, the mother and child tracking system जो हमारी है, उसमें क्या दिक्कतें आ रही हैं, उसमें अभी registration 60%, 70% क्यों हो पा रहा है? बातें करते 8 घंटे के बाद people started speaking out, and then we could realize what the problem is. So it breaks those barriers, and then real solutions, the real problems which you need to identify and resolve them. So it's a wonderful tool, and everybody must use it, must get used to it, and help deliver results which certainly help the system grow. Whatever task we are doing, we need to improve upon qualitative and quantitative improvements, and this is the tool by which we should do it. Thank you very much.